It is estimated that the globe has 46.8 millionaires, which is more than the population of California, which is the most populated state in the United States combined. The fact that 40% of all these billionaires live in the United States, however, means that this statistic does not reflect the whole reality. Since then, the United States has emerged as the nation in which, according to the world's 10 richest persons, you have the highest chance of becoming a billionaire. In all, there are 8 of them, and if they had attempted to build their fortunes in any other country, they would have failed terribly in their attempts to attain the same level of success that they have achieved in the United States so far. Think about Elon Musk, for example. He is a visionary. It is no longer true that the United States is the only nation capable of competing with China, especially when it comes to the construction of large-scale infrastructure projects in the developing world. Countries such as China are increasingly competing with the United States in a variety of industries and markets. Hey, let's talk how to master the game of money. The video principles for dealing with the changing world order by Elite Daily came across my inbox every single day, and I just had to watch it because it was literally everywhere. If you haven't watched it, do so. Now, because the world is changing and the rules of the game are changing, if you want to make sure you end up at the top, if you want to take advantage of the changing world order, if you want to make sure you end up at the top, take a look at this graph. If you want to understand whether or not inflation is an issue. Back in the 1960s, the United States was extremely cautious with printed money because the US dollar was about to be phased out. However, it still printed more money than the amount of gold it had sold in 1971. The gold standard was abandoned, and since then, the United States has to use the printing machine every time it has encountered a crisis when the opening interest rates weren't sufficient. This wasn't a big deal back in the 1980s and 1990s. But after the dot-com bubble, the United States rushed to. As a result, many economists began warning us about the devaluation of the dollar because every additional dollar in the economy increases the value of the existing banknotes in circulation. The problem is that once you get used to printing money, it is extremely difficult to get rid of it. While Coleman hit the world, why did the Fed do exactly what it did? It printed trillions of dollars. In fact, 1 out of every dollar in existence was printed in the United States. That's why property prices have skyrocketed in the last 24 months. The dollar has been depreciated as a game to get out of crisis, and now we want to do the exact same thing with students. But the issue is that this is unsustainable. Number 2. The United States dollar will soon lose its position as the world's reserve currency. In China, the annual pricing power has already reached its maximum and is on the decline. This indicates that the US dollar may soon be replaced as the global reserve currency. One of the main reasons for the constant demand for the US dollar is that oil is mostly sold in dollars. If Japan wants to buy oil from the Middle East, it must first purchase dollars in order to pay to the Saudis, for example, which boosts the demand for dollars. Oil is unliquefied. This means that the US dollar is unliquefied. Number 3. Possess tangible assets. As a result, every currency serves as a medium of exchange, and its true purpose is not in holding it but in exchange goods for other currencies. Before the United States dollar, the British pound served as the global currency reserve. Prior to this week, the Dutch guilder served as the global currency reserve. As a result, it is prudent to invest the majority of your wealth in real assets that will appreciate in value in response to a rise in the value of a currency. Since the Federal Reserve produced billions of dollars to get out of this crisis, housing prices, for example, have increased by more than 20% in order to keep up with the rising cost of living. But these types of transformations do not occur quickly. Rather, they take years, if not decades, to manifest themselves. Not having a pile of currencies that may end up losing the bulk of their value when these changes take place is important. What is important is being prepared for them to take place instead. Number 4. Keep a keen eye out. As soon as the empire reaches the peak of power, it is easy to get acclimated to a pleasant way of life, which progressively weakens you day by day until you realize that your adversaries have become more formidable. Many people feel that the United States is avoiding this agony during its present economic crisis by printing money, which has led many to assume that the practice will continue forever. Number 5 is to adapt in order to live. While we have no way of knowing how long the US dollar will continue to be the world's reserve currency, what we do know is that the significant changes are on the horizon, and those who stand to benefit the most from these changes will be the wealthy. To illustrate, let's look at the case of the United States dollar, which is the world's reserve currency. Despite the fact that the United States has a tight hold on the financial industry, Visa and MasterCard essentially dominate the whole market. However, because the United States has isolated Russia, the globe is seeking for alternate methods of processing payments. China, for example, has UnionPay, as does Russia, but both of these systems have been built in conjunction with the old banking system. But with cryptocurrency, the game is changing for hundreds of millions of individuals around the world. In order to move money around, Russia and other countries that are distancing themselves from the United States financial sector are utilizing various cryptocurrency platforms. And this is only the beginning of the opportunities to develop something in this sector that would be worth billions of dollars and be virtually limitless. Sincerely, and until next time, thank you for watching.